Okay, so we're continuing chapter 1. We finished section 1 already. We're going to skip section 2, and today we're going to talk about section 3, the study of biology. So our goals for today are as shown. You can take a look at those. And today's mainly focused on the scientific method. So our bell work question was, what are the steps of the scientific method? And we talked about this mnemonic device here, oh dear. So this is a saying we can use to help us remember the steps, which are observation, hypothesis, design, experiment, analyze, and report. Okay, so here we have our oh dear again. So steps 1 through 6, and we're going to go through each step. The first step being observe. So this is all about making observations about the natural world. So the book has an example of an owl, and the observation that is being made is that the owl captures prey on dark nights. So they want to know, how do the owls detect the prey when it's dark out? Our second step is hypothesize. So this is all about listing the possible explanations for those phenomena that we observed. So the hypotheses for our owl example are that either owls hunt in the dark using vision, or owls hunt in the dark using hearing. So these are the possible explanations. The third step is to design and predict. So we need to make a prediction for each hypothesis about what would happen if that hypothesis were true. And then we want to design an experiment to test those predictions. So with our owl example, if the owls hunted in the dark using vision, our prediction would be that the owl will pounce only on a mouse, regardless if it's in a dark room or a light room. And then if the owl hunts by hearing, our prediction would be that the owl's going to basically pounce on anything that makes noise in a dark room. However, in a light room, it should be able to pounce just on the mouse. Okay, so homework question number 1. The possible explanations for the natural phenomena being observed are called A. Observations, B. Hypotheses, C. Designs, or D. Predictions. Homework question number 2. The expected outcomes of an experiment are called A. Observations, B. Hypotheses, C. Designs, or D. Predictions. Okay, so the fourth step of the scientific method is to experiment. So remember that in science, we really want to use controlled experiments. So this allows us to compare experimental groups with the control group, so we can kind of figure out how that variable is having an effect. So just to remind you, the control group is the group that is not receiving a treatment. The experimental group is the group that is receiving the treatment. The independent variable is the treatment. And the dependent variable is basically the result of the treatment. So what is happening as a result of the independent variable? Okay, so for our owl example, let's go through and figure out what these different variables are. So our control group and our experimental group. For the owls, the control group is going to be owls in a light room. So in the light room, the owl should be able to always get the mouse, regardless of how it hunts in the dark. Our experimental group is the owls in the dark room. So this is the group that's receiving the treatment. This is the group that we're really looking at. And then we want to figure out our independent and dependent variables. The independent variable is the presence or absence of light. So the light is the treatment in this case. and we want to figure out if light has an effect on the owl's ability to hunt. And the dependent variable, which is changing, remember, as a result of the independent variable, is the accuracy of the owl's strike on prey. So basically, we want to see in a dark room, is the owl able to accurately strike the mouse, or is it going to go after something that it hears, like a rustling leaf, instead? Okay, homework question number 3 is based on this kind of experiment that I came up with here. I'll go through and read it, and then I'll read the homework question. So in this experiment, our observation is that Oreos get soggy when they're dipped in milk. The hypothesis is that Oreos get soggier in 2% milk than they do in other kinds of milk. The design is that Oreos will be dipped in 2 different types of milk for the same amount of time, and then we'll record the sogginess. And the prediction is that Oreos dipped in chocolate milk will not get as soggy as those dipped in 2% milk. So the homework question here is, in the following experiment, identify the experimental group. Homework question number 4, in the following experiment, identify the control group. Homework question number 5, in the following experiment, identify the independent variable. And note that our results are now shown below. Homework question number 6, in the following experiment, identify the dependent variable. And homework question number 7, in the following experiment, identify the control variable. Now I know we haven't talked about control variables yet, but I want you to kind of infer and figure out what you think the control variable would be here. Okay, so step number 5 in the scientific method is to analyze. So we kind of want to look at our data, analyze them, figure out whether they're reliable, whether they support or refute the predictions and the hypothesis. So for our owl, we're going to kind of measure the data from the experiment, or collect the data, and then we're going to analyze it. So we're going to look at it, see what we can conclude from it. And in this case, the data support the hearing hypothesis. So owls hunt in the dark by hearing. And you could take a look at this graph here to figure out why that would be. And the 6th step in the scientific method is to report. So we want to share our findings with others so that they can verify those findings and they can maybe continue research and research similar things. So those are the 6 steps of the scientific method. And I want to go over a few things kind of related to this. So when we're drawing conclusions, a few things to note. An experiment cannot prove a hypothesis. We never say that a hypothesis is proven. It's always possible that there's a different factor that we're not looking at that is causing the effect. However, an experiment can disprove a hypothesis. So we can rule out the possibility that that factor we're looking at is causing the effect. And an experiment can support a hypothesis. So if the factor that we're studying seems to be causing the measured effect, we can assume that that's true until or unless we gather data that show otherwise. In a scientific theory, again, I just want you to remember that a scientific theory is different than the word theory in everyday language. And a hypothesis can be reclassified as a theory if it's supported by a large amount of evidence. Homework question number 8. A hypothesis can be what by a scientific experiment? A, supported, B, proven false, C, proven true, or D, identified. Homework question number 9, true or false? In science, a hypothesis is the same as